welcome to the 9720 Unplugged Podcast. Today we are shooting again at the service station in Rosendal, and we have beautiful guests, but let me turn to that and introduce.
Okay, hello guys, once again, my name is Lawrence. Of course, this is the Unplugged Podcast where we really discuss issues that really matter and actually get to dive into the details and get to hear more information and get to learn in the process, of course. And today, of course, we have our guest, just as Splash has already mentioned. We have our guest today that will be talking to, getting to know him a little bit more, what he does, and the message that he has for the youth out there. So yeah, do stick around and make sure that you and I are going to be together till the end of the podcast. Of course, getting to educate ourselves and learn in the process.
Yeah. And you guys are watching, but not subscribing. So please, guys, subscribe, like. Yeah, we really appreciate that.
We really appreciate it.
So today we have our special guest. Can you please introduce yourself, Mr.
Douglas.
Oh, Mr. Douglas.
Yeah.
So simple. All right, so Mr. Douglas, I heard that you grew up in different countries.
Mm-hmm.
Is it true?
It's true.
Yeah, so tell us.
Okay. Sasha Lawrence, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. Pleasure to be here with you today.
Thank you.
Yes, that's correct. I am not a South African citizen, native born. I am from Canada. That is my home country, and I left Canada as an adult, a young adult, and I've spent most of my working life and career in Africa or to do with Africa, and that means covering hotspots and war zones: Democratic Republic of Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, Angola, Mozambique, Republic of Congo, Brazzaville. So I've been an Africanist, I guess you could say. But yes, Canada's my country, but now South Africa is also my country.
Nice.
And Rosendal is my home.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So you're from Canada.
Correct.
How did you come to be in Rosendal?
That's a question I receive quite frequently, Lawrence, and my answer is that it was random and unplanned. It wasn't something I was intending to do, was to come and live in Rosendal. It's I always say Rosendal chooses people, or it happens to people. It is a very special place. I'm very happy to be here. It's nearly 13 years. And I arrived in a random way. I was working in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where I was running a boxing club for child soldiers, ex-child soldiers. And I was on my way to DRC, and I had a stopover in Johannesburg for a week. I thought, okay, I'll do something unusual, go do a farm stay in the Free State. Well, that was very close to Rosendal, and the Free State either speaks to people or it does not, but it definitely spoke to me. I felt an immediate connection and bond, and I was fascinated. I needed at that time to base myself in South Africa. I couldn't go on living long-term in DRC, so I came to Rosendal and started to rent and carry out my work as a journalist working from here.
So tell us, what do you like about South Africa, and how does it different from Canada?
Okay, first of all, Canada is one of the most peaceful, prosperous, successful countries in the world. And I'm proud of that, and I respect it, my own home country. But I've chosen to come and live in South Africa instead. And the reasons why are that I find this country fascinating and quite fulfilling. Now, it's not that I don't see the problems, and I'm not comparing like with like.
Definitely.
But South Africa is not a boring place. One, you have to really be on your toes here. This is a country in transition, and it's quite exciting to be part of that. And there are many, many challenges. You do have to, as I say, keep your wits about you. But let's say that tension that underpins life here is actually enormously satisfying. This is a country where some basic things have to be fought for. You really have to roll up your sleeves and get involved. Living in a small community, service delivery issues, and you must be part of the community, or you can not be, but you have to be a pretty indifferent person not to be, and that's not something anyone should wish.
So would you say that South Africa is peaceful?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we could get into some definitional issues of peace. I think there is peacefulness and quality of life here, and obviously there are parts of the country that are more troubled.
Yeah.
And I think also the inequality is quite stark. So, comfort for some, not really comfortable, safe, peaceful for others. But obviously we are a nation coming together and trying to create the best life possible for everyone.
You said something about Rosendal calling you, Free State calling you. How was that like? How was it like being called by Rosendal, the Free State?
Well, there's a few things there, Lawrence. Look, this country is just remarkable, and that called me immediately, the starkness of the landscape. And I guess the main issue is cities are a very different place than the countryside, the rural areas.
Definitely.
The rural areas of any country will give you the reality of the country in a way that a city does not.
Yeah.
Now, South Africa's big cities are cosmopolitan. You can be in Cape Town and sometimes people say, "Oh, this is like Europe." Well, in a big cosmopolitan city, you're not going to have the same experience of diversity and the reality of the country in the same way that you do in a smaller community like Rosendal.
Amazing. So, Mr. Douglas, could you please tell us, what do you think about Rosendal? What do you think about Maute? What are the community's strengths?
Sure. Well, it's interesting how you phrase the question, because you said there's Rosendal and Maute, and that kind of answers the question. There's two communities here.
Yeah.
I like to think of it as one, and I think it is our obligation as residents of both neighborhoods to work together and to make this one community to the degree possible, without losing identity or doing that. It must be in a natural, organic, and positive way of communities working together. But yes, correct, there is the reality that there are two communities. I was fascinated by Rosendal right away because it does have such a remarkable character as a peaceful and safe and pretty town. But beyond that, there's the fact that because it's such a small place, there's intimacy that comes with that. Everyone knows each other.
Yeah.
And from that, there's an obligation to get along and work together. As I said earlier, you cannot avoid that in this town. Now, if you're in Johannesburg, you don't know your neighbors. You don't have to cooperate with them.
Yeah.
And if you do meet them, they're not going to be very much unlike you if you're living in a good neighborhood in Joburg. In Rosendal, you will come across and confront every day people from very different backgrounds, socioeconomic, income, race, life experience. So living here, I have to deal with the Boer farmers, I have to deal with the artists, the gay people who live in Rosendal, and also just the regular people who are living here for whatever reason, working professionally, and there are a large number. And then all the people of Maute, which is obviously very diverse. Young, intelligent, interesting people like yourselves.
Yeah. I can say you've been living in Rosendal, I think, more than 10 years now. So what are the biggest problems or challenges you have noticed about this town?
The biggest problems and challenges?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to answer just I'll put that into your earlier question about, Rosendal versus Maute. The biggest problem in my view is unemployment and poverty.
Yeah. That one.
There is the indignity of not having a job is one of the hardest parts of life for many people in Maute, and there is real hardship there. I'm not saying everyone, but there's enough people who are without employment, and a person without employment is robbed of dignity and robbed of the ability to provide for themselves and their family and build prosperous, productive lives.
Yeah.
So that is my biggest concern. And there's many other problems, and I was going to sort of seg on to a follow-on question of how do we get over that? Well, there has to be employment creation, and where is that going to come from? Well, we can look at the government. There's lots of government jobs: the schools, the police, the municipality. But that cannot be the basis of growth. There are not enough jobs that can be created by government, and all those jobs have to be paid by the taxpayers, you and me. So that and farming, we are a farming town and Rosendal and an arts town. And we're also a tourist town. And we must work to develop that because it is the main source of employment growth. And I feel a special responsibility to help that along. It's my obligation as part of the community. You asked earlier about Mautse and also the special character of Rosendal.
Yeah.
The most special character for me is that this is a place where people do observe social obligation.
Yeah.
It's not like you can just live a beautiful life here in Rosendal and be indifferent to the community around you. And there are many, many avenues to get involved, and most people do. But on your day-to-day, you will be confronted by that reality time and again. You can't really ignore it. You can hide behind closed doors, but that's not real life. And the dynamism of Rosendal comes from, and Mautse comes from, that ability to work together. And I think that happens to a great extent, and to a greater extent than almost any other community that I'm aware of here in the Free State.
Yeah.
And certainly, as I was giving the example of cities in Johannesburg, you don't roll up your sleeves and do stuff with your neighbors. Okay, some neighborhoods might, but it's now and again. Here, I think it's just a constant process, and there are many, many things to get involved with. I think it's responding positively to requests for assistance when it comes from specific groups, like the soccer teams that come to our town committee looking for funding for tournaments and transportation, or the choirs. Often there are small projects, philanthropic projects to help disadvantaged people and families in Mautse. And there's also the opportunity to get involved with making sure our municipality runs properly and we have the services that we paid for as taxpayers. You're asking, what the biggest problem. So I would itemize first unemployment, but then also service delivery. It's one of our serious problems. But part of the character of living in Rosendal, Mautse, is you get involved. So things don't work. You must try to get them to work properly, and we must work with our partners in the municipality. And we have very productive professional and personal relations there. We know all the department heads. If I was living in Joburg, if my water runs out, I know maybe I'd have to call a call center. Here, I can call Leifo Motanyani or and I'd probably see him passing in the street 5 times a day. Hey.
So I heard that you are mentioning a lot of challenges that people are facing in Rosendal. So tell us, have you seen any progress? Right now, have you seen the progress since?
Yes. Absolutely, definitely. This is just a very different place from when I came 10 years ago. You can see that in the growth of housing and businesses. When I came here first, it was sort of a tourist town, but it was at a much lower level. Yeah. And during the time I was here, there was even periods when the town felt like it was hanging on by its fingernails, trying to make sure that it could succeed as a tourist town. And there were enough people with a common vision united around that point to make sure it happened. And the town didn't die. I remember there was one year where there were no restaurants left, and the last restaurant had closed. Chris van die Kerk, the famous Afrikaans language actor, had moved to the Cape, and some local volunteers said, well, look, it's Christmas time. This is the peak season. People come and visit Rosendal. We have to make sure that they can see the town still has a pulse. So all of us volunteers, we had to do a pop-up restaurant. And I didn't have any experience running a restaurant, but I had to put in my days. And any visitor who came to the crossroads and said, "Is this Rosendal?" You were like, "Yeah, that's it." And we used to get that quite often. Like, "Is this it?" I lived across the street at the old bank house, and I'd often get people knocking my door. Is this Rosendal, or is that all there is? And where's the downtown? Right. And I think for the character of the town appeals to certain people and not to others, and that's fair. If you want more commercial pleasures, you must go to a town in the Western Cape or on the KZN South Coast, and you can, rent a dune buggy or an ATV, and that can be your holiday. This isn't a town for ATVs and running around or wimpy restaurants, or it's very small scale and quite authentic. It still has the small town, and it's a farming town, very authentic, and also an arts town.
And how it's
So you were asking, what has changed? Well, quite a lot. I can remember when I moved here, I was told that I was permanent resident number 61.
Oh.
This is in the historic legacy town of Rosendal. I'm not speaking
Okay.
about Mount Say,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
So there's 61 people living here full time. There have been a few people that had second homes from Joburg, but okay, now there's about 140, 130. It's hard
Wow.
to count,
Yeah.
but okay,
That's
it's doubled.
progress.
So
Yeah.
more people are recognizing the quality of life proposition that you can enjoy here. We often get here at the service station wine bar people coming for the weekend, visiting from Bloemfontein or Pretoria, and they love it. And then like, I can't come back soon enough, or can I buy a house, or give me a number for a real estate agent, or what does a house cost here? And we've even had people in the space of one weekend just make the decision right then and there, honey, we're leaving Joburg. This is where it's at. We're coming to live a peaceful life in the country. So we are offering I think a strong package or whatever you want to call it. Just our quality of life is obviously very appealing to a lot of people. I'm seeing that right now, more and more people buying houses, living here, and remarking on the friendliness. So we get more and more guests here at the service station. And I would also say much more now it's well-to-do, affluent African people from Gauteng.
Yeah.
And I think they don't really know Rosendal, and they see it on Instagram, and they're curious.
Yeah.
Maybe they're a little bit apprehensive, not sure what to expect. But they come here and they're warmly welcomed. They have a great time. They meet some locals. They hang out here at my bar. They go to Yolo's. They check out the art gallery. And they have a great time, and they want to come back, and they spread the word. Now, as you can see, I'm very positive about that message, that we need to get the word out there. This is a really cool place. It's peaceful, it's attractive, and it's friendly and safe. We don't lock our doors here most of the time.
Yeah.
I'm not preoccupied with crime. I'm not like living behind a gate in a gated community in Gauteng. I kind of say you can come to Rosendal and have a millionaire's lifestyle on a pauper's income.
Yeah.
You're not going to have to pay for private security. You don't have to pay for, gated community services. It just is what it is. It's very natural. It's authentic. It's true to itself. This is a rural town. And I always say in the Free State, there seems to be happy and sad towns. And you can tell a sad town almost immediately. You come in and you can just see the degradation. There's rubbish on the street. People aren't really trying anymore. Maybe they did for a while, but then they gave up. They got frustrated. Here, we don't let that happen. If there's a problem, people will get involved and solve it.
It's an inclusive community.
Yeah. Maybe that is so cheaper to live in Rosendal.
Yeah,
From
definitely.
your experience living in Johannesburg and living in Rosendal.
Living in Johannesburg, living in London.
Yeah.
and
Even the
always.
properties, you can see that. Okay. Yeah.
Well, you did mention that this is a farming town and arts town. What do you think we can do to make sure that this town succeeds when we bring it to its maximum potential? What can we do as a community to make sure that this town succeeds?
Yeah.
Very good question. Well, look, I think we're on our own. No one's going to do it for us.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
We understand that.
Yeah.
And this is a town that's been pulling itself up by its bootstraps with basically zero assistance from, I'm not pointing fingers at the government, just saying we did it here on our own. But what Rosendal needs to succeed, I would say to carry on the path that we're on now, because it's working. We are offering an authentic experience where the town is peaceful and safe and friendly and attractive, and that is helping address our issues of unemployment. I said earlier, where the job's going to come from for youth in the township or anyone in the township, and I say it's going to come from tourism growth here in Rosendal or in the both cities. We can talk a bit later about how Mount Say can better participate in that growth story, which is quite a serious issue in itself. But what Rosendal needs to succeed, carry on our path. Houses are being built that are good design, they look attractive. We have a town committee that invests in landscaping and social cohesion projects, making sure our services work. Those are our biggest challenges. And it's a whole ecosystem. Different characters, different actors in the Rosendal Mount Say context have to work together. So we have to work with the municipality. We've got to work with the small business owners. We have to work with the youth in Mansa who don't have jobs and are looking at this story and saying, how can I participate? Our service delivery problems are quite serious. I am gratified now that we have a team in Dithlebeng under Mayor Tsekiseke, who was on your interview 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And from our meetings with him, it's clear that he is trying to do a proper job and improve. We've also had Kenny, our unit manager, and that's been fantastic. She's a dynamic, hardworking woman. It's really helping our community by making sure things work. Now, people don't want to come and live in a community where things don't work. If there's not water, not electricity, are you going to spend your money, hard-earned money, to buy a house in that community? No. And if you don't, that's one person less who is not here spending money, hiring local labor, and contributing to the growth story. So all those different facets have to be satisfied. We have to work together. And to a large degree, we are. Lots more to do. We can also get on to service delivery. I think we've made some definite strides of improvement in the last year, and I give full credit to the hardworking people at the municipality who are trying to make things work. But we are still dealing with state failure and service delivery failure issues that are deep-rooted and long-standing. They're not going to be solved overnight. One of the biggest problems there, really, I'm sorry to say, is cadre deployment. If you have as your explicit policy that you're going to appoint members of the ruling party without appropriate professional experience to run government services, you can't be surprised when the results are quite poor later on, which is the situation we've been dealing with for at least 15 years. Now, it's not normal, I should also say that. Cadre deployment is not a normal policy, not in a democratic society. In authoritarian societies, maybe. Not in a democratic one. Look, in Canada, Western Europe, you have the state and the party have to be separate.
Okay.
So when a government changes power because there's an election, civil servants carry on running the civil service and doing service delivery. They do it without fear and favor for political political actors. So it is sort of a tragic wrong turn in our country. The cadre deployment has been adopted and held on to so stubbornly when it's obviously not working and is a major impediment to solving our problems. I say that with all due respect to all my friends in the ANC and a lot of people. And I know all these guys and ladies, and they agree, and they're the ones who should fight to change it. That has to come from within the party. We can't just be on the outside throwing rocks at the ANC saying you're useless and look at your failure. We've got to engage with people in a respectful way also. And that's another strength of Rosendal. We all know each other. I know Councillor Sempe, she's my good friend. We may not agree on everything, but I respect her. When I see her, I give her the respect that her station deserves. I'm not going to, complain or insult my elected representative. That's my elected representative. I'll use avenues for redress and demanding accountability. That's fair play, and it's required in a democratic society. Democracy is not just about casting your vote and then you forget about it until the next election 4 years later. It's about an engaged and active citizenry that is aware of their rights and are demanding accountability, requiring accountability from elected representatives and from the state institutions upon which we depend and need and that we pay for.
So would you say there's a democracy in South Africa?
Yes, I would definitely say we are a democracy. Obviously there's some stress points. And I think one of them is just inevitable. If one party is in power for so long, for 30 years, you have a process of decay. And I think renewal comes in a democratic system through elections and changes of power on a regular basis. Party rules for a while, they get a bit too complacent, maybe a bit arrogant and corrupt, and then the electorate, the voters throw them out and someone else is given a chance. That party has to go back and heal itself until it can be trusted by the people again. Now, because of South Africa's quite unique history, we've had a ruling party that's fused itself with the state and with the whole idea of what modern South Africa is. I think that has some dangers, and I think the most healthy thing for the party would probably be to lose power and then earn trust again and come back. That would be a natural a natural process. It's not up to me to tell anyone who to vote for, but if you're asking me, do we have democracy? Yes, we do, but there are some serious problems. And the ones I'm mentioning are the fusion of state and party that's totally inappropriate in democratic society.
Yeah.
And that we have long-term incumbency. And this is not just the fault of the ANC. I think any party in power for 30 years is going to start to show some of the undesirable characteristics that this party displays in government. And I have to just call that out because it's such an obvious, plain statement of fact. And I'm not saying it in a disrespectful way to that party, which delivered liberation in this country, and for which I think most African people retain a residual loyalty because of that. I think at a certain point, people have to start thinking, well, who's going to solve the problems, and is it the same guys saying the same promises every 4 years?
The same guys.
You tell me.
Yeah.
Well, you did speak about when you got here, it was only 61 people, and a few years later, it's almost double the number. And we have a problem of unemployment.
Yes.
And as much as it's a farming and arts town, we have entrepreneurs like yourself in the community, and we have leaders that we are talking about right now.
Yes.
What do you think can be done to make sure that this town is much more stronger and more successful with working hand in hand as entrepreneurs and leaders of the community?
Yeah, well, definitely a good question. And there's 2 points there. I'll start with the first one about entrepreneurs. Well, entrepreneurs have a role. They are the driving force of employment creation in Rosendal, I might say. It's the small business owners who are starting up shops, art galleries, restaurants, and the infrastructure that we need as a tourist destination. If people come from Joburg, there has to be something for them to do and something to see. First ones usually is restaurants and galleries. Okay, we got that. There's always room for more. We'll grow. Also, things for people to do. And in the last year, our town committee allocated funding to build a trail up through the Kestel Park to the Water Tower Hill. So when people come, I get people at my wine bar and they say, what can I do? What's there to do here? There is something. I can say this is the hiking, and that's on municipal land, so it's public. There's lots of farmland around us, but it's private. I can't send people out to a farmer's land without their permission, and I can't do that for every visitor in Rosendal. So entrepreneurs, creating an environment, having things to do, and it's going to come out through in a natural way. I think the one sort of missing element in Rosendal's tourism offering has always been that there's not really enough retail. So people want to go to shops and spend money if you're a tourist. Now that's changed. We do have a couple of shops. There's one here in my wine bar, the Free State Design Company over there, and in the art gallery next door has a gift shop. That tells you something, that a standalone business trying to engage with the tourist trade is probably going to have a pretty hard time paying its bills, because we're kind of a weekend town, right? People come down Friday to Sunday. Businesses trying to stand alone are going to struggle still. I think we'll get there as foot traffic increases, but in the meantime, the main model for retail working is generally, if it's cohabited with an existing business, ideally a restaurant. You've seen Leela's Handelshuis restaurant. She's got a bit of a gift shop. There's the Krummel restaurant. They've got a gift shop next door. So, their sunk costs for running the restaurant is already there, and then you offer something. And to the degree possible, we want those items being sold to be, artisanal, locally made in South Africa, and if we can get to more suppliers in Matse to make things that people want, then wonderful.
Yeah, I can say, hey, and you guys are doing a very beautiful work. You guys are doing a very beautiful work, because right now, when it comes to tourist attraction, Rosendal is a second place in Free State. Because, wow, look at this.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, so it
wouldn't look out of place in Joburg or Cape Town. Yeah, so we need to work together on that, all of us. And now address your question, Lawrence. How do we get there? How do we get the communities to work together more? Well, I think we have some good foundations to build on. One, there is a culture and a tradition and an understanding of responding. I always say, if Mao Tse comes knocking, Rosendal has to listen. Go away, I don't have money for you. I mean, it's not a very constructive way to approach our fellow members in the community. Let's keep working together, make sure we demand accountability on services. Let's try to go on growing Rosendal as a tourist destination with this authenticity. You mentioned we're number 2 in the Free State, number 2 after Clarence. Clarence is a great place, I love it, but you'll also notice Clarence is quite a busy sort of commercial ethos. We are a sleepy little town, and we make a virtue of that. And people seem to like it. This is still a working farming town, and there's a lot of creative arts and industries as well, and it just looks clean and nice. You come down the main street, right off the bat, you see the trees planted, there's not rubbish everywhere, the houses are nicely restored, new ones, good modern design are being built. Well, I think we can come back later in the interview if you wish, but how do we get more people in Mao Tse to participate?
Well, in conclusion, I just want to ask you, it's no secret that we spoke about unemployment. The young people in the communities are not working, and in as much as this is an arts town, farming town, what advice can you give to the young people out there that are just hopeless, that might have given up? What advice can you give them to actually take a role and take part in this town as part of farming, as part of arts? What is it that it can do?
Good question, Lawrence. Thank you. You kind of hit the nail on the head. How do we involve youth in a productive way, and what can we say to them if they are not really participating in this beautiful growth story? Look, we cannot guarantee equality of outcome, and even equality of opportunity. It doesn't fully exist, I think, in Mao Tse. So all we can say to the youth is work to the highest degree to realize your potential. Some people are not gifted academically as students, and that's not necessarily a handicap or a barrier to success in the other areas of life. So I would say to the youth, make something of yourself to the degree possible, take advantage of opportunities, don't get sidetracked into short-term fixes, addiction or substance abuse. Or negative social behavior like sexual violence, which we have a problem of in the community. Just try to be a productive, constructive member of the community and do what's right for you. Frankly, a lot of people with talent and ambition leave Rosendal, and we can't blame them. But we don't lose them entirely. I always say they're alumni. They've graduated from Rosendal, they still come back to their hometown, and they're positive role models. Life is tough in Mao Tse, I fully understand. There's youth there who are in quite difficult personal circumstances through unemployment and we must just give them hope that we're going to make this a better community. I can't sit here honestly and say I'm going to guarantee a better life for every single person. It's beyond our capacity as a town, but we can create a better life for more people. And you always have to look when you're at the counterfactual. What would be going on if there weren't these jobs? Things in Mao Tse would be far worse than they are. But let's work together and participate in joint initiatives. And one of the great joint initiatives is we do have a Rosendal and Mao Tse Town Committee, and that has people from Mao Tse and Rosendal participating as volunteers and doing good works. We raise money annually through an auction, and all the guest houses have to pay 1,000 Rand a month to be on our website. So lots of things, there are funds being mobilized, and they're being used for good purposes. Making the town look good, helping out the municipality if they need help, and responding to small project requests from Mao Tse as they come along. So that social cohesion element, the latter mentioned, it's just vital. It's vital. So, I don't know, come and get involved, and you know, you might like it, might not like it, and that's fine. Then let someone else give it a try.
Yeah, from everything that you have mentioned, so do you agree that is there a role for everyone in building like a new future for Rosendal?
Yes, there is. I think just you know, live your life and realize your potential, and be aware that you're an example. You're an ambassador representing the community.
Yeah.
So yeah, all of you people are great brand ambassadors through this 9720 Unplugged. Great initiative. It's giving a voice to youth that's very articulate, and taking that message to Rosendal and to Matse. And I've noticed in your podcasts, you always have a serious topic. It's lighthearted and it's informative, but you do tackle serious issues, and you ask the right people. It was fantastic that you asked our counselor and had her here to explain herself. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Evelyn, for coming. Thank you for interviewing. And you know, same with our mayor. And I think last week you had a businesswoman who's now working in Vicksburg, but came from Matse. Belesen
Miss Ansel.
Ansal.
Yeah.
A very impressive person, because she's taken advantage of opportunities.
Yeah.
And started up quite a successful business. Now, not every youth in Matse is going to be able to start a business having, you know, the money and the wherewithal to do it. But your earlier question for every single person is realize your potential and live a good life. You know, don't engage in crime or substance abuse. Don't set a bad example for our community. Set a good example, and for the most part, people are doing that. Everyone always mentions, you know, we're in Rosendal, we feel safe. You know, like, you know, do I have to lock the car door? And I always just say, dude, relax. You're not in Joburg anymore. No one's going to steal your car. No one's going to invade your home. You know,
you're safe.
You're safe, and that is just invaluable to have that. It's a commodity that's not common in the rest of South Africa. It is a beautiful attribute here. Let's keep nurturing that, working on it, working together, and trying to make a better life for more people by the town being a success.
Yeah, from everything, like right now, I still think there's still a separation from Maute people and Rosendal people. So what can be done to bring Rosendal and Maute closer together?
Yeah, well, a good point. The spatial characteristics of apartheid are a legacy that is still with us and will be for a long time. And you know, the whole reason Matse exists is because of the Group Areas Act. I think that was 1951 in South Africa when the Nats came to power. Well, that created Matse. Up until that point, Africans, prosperous Africans, and people would have been living here in Rosendal on the periphery, and then they got uprooted and told to go live in Matse. Okay, well now Matse, it's, you know, now we're 70 years later. Matse is a community. It's not going away. We're not going to, you know, suddenly merge the two communities. So, but it's important to remember and understand history of how Matse was created, and what can we do to work together and bring the communities together. I think it's just this thing I'm mentioning earlier, by listening and talking to each other. You know, the concept of Ubuntu, you know, respect your neighbor. People walking down the street, we always wave and greet each other. And the things we can do would be just go on making sure this is a safe and attractive community that's an example to the country and to the province that we can be proud of, and that more people are going to come and spend money as tourists because they value our values.
Well, I just want to quickly ask you before we wrap up. What are you spoke about the guest houses contributing 1,000 rands a month to be on your website, and that money being put to good use. What are the projects that are being run in Maute?
Okay. I think the major project achievements the last year, beyond the day-to-day of just like monitoring, you know, making sure that we liaise with the roads department and the contractors and the R70 rehabilitation to know what's going on. The other stuff is Sorry, Lawrence, your question is?
What are the projects that are being...
The projects are...
Yeah.
Okay, we've got quite a few to do with heritage. You see these historic plaques that are on various of the buildings in town.
Yeah.
You know, the bank and the general dealer building. So that sort of gives some context. People can come and they walk along, and there's a heritage district. Heritage tourism is a big deal. Town committee funded the painting of those signs.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, we also gave money to the Community Policing Forum Youth Desk. Now, the CPF it legally has to be constituted in every community in South Africa. The police are required to set one up. I think it's registered in the Constitution as such. But you find that the meaningfulness of the activity can also lag behind its actual mandate. So we helped out the youth desk when it got formed. The town committee reached out and we had some branded T-shirts made for them.
Yeah.
Okay.
We co-branded a few exercises so the Community Policing Forum youth desk could be there when there was a soccer tournament. Or at the Seppo soup kitchen, there was a pizza day. We raised money and bought every kid a pizza.
Nice.
Just that they should have something special once in a while. And that was done through the town committee. The donors were actually private. I helped out a bit also with a crowdfunding campaign in Canada. What else have we done? Well, you see these street lights, the ones that are solar powered. Yeah, that was the town committee. Because we were having load shedding a lot.
Yeah.
Oh.
And there was also parts of town where the lights hadn't worked for a long time anyway. So town committee had a project and we funded it and got lights put up all over town. There's a lot we've been involved in, and then probably 10 or 12 times we've had requests for funding coming from specific groups in Mountse. Often it's sports teams. The Mountse ladies netball and football team, they've come to us for funding. There's been tournaments. So and then every year at Christmas, the community gets together and raises some money so that the police and the municipality office can have a proper Christmas party. It's voluntary donations, but it's an important point to make is, we have to have at least one day a year where we're not complaining to the municipality, you're bloody useless and why haven't you done this or fix that. Just respect the people who are working there that are doing the best within the resources available to them. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned a lot of projects that.
And we've also got we rehabilitated the cemetery. That was a big project. Yeah, because the wire had grown old and fallen down, and the cattle were coming in and knocking over the graves, and that was degrading the history and heritage of Rosendal.
Okay. So you mentioned a lot of projects that you guys fund, right? So how do you all manage or monitor how the funds are being used or utilized for the good cause?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, any funding proposal that comes to the town committee, it has to be considered under the terms of the constitution of the town committee, which states that the mandate is to uplift and benefit Rosendal, Mountse, wherever possible. So if you can fit within those very broad terms, that's okay. That's the first check to get over the hurdles, and then the person or the group involved has to fill out a form and hand that in, explain exactly what the purpose is for, how it's going to benefit the community, what it's going to cost, and how they're going to account for the money. Yeah, so lots of people to thank, and that's a pretty straightforward approach. We have a kind of a rapid dispersing fund, so if people ideally should come a couple of weeks before, even a month, but often we get requests, it's like the day before. Well, it doesn't give us very much time to consider things, but we did come up with a rapid dispersing fund to get votes by WhatsApp and try to not disappoint people. But yeah, we are a community doing loads. Really happy and proud about that. I think I was also mentioning the park, so that tourists, when they come, can have something to do. They can go on a walk through this trail, and so we raised money for that purpose. The two main sources of income for the town committee are, one, there's an auction. There's a charity auction every year. It's going to be next month on the Easter weekend. And it means people donate things, and then we have a big weekend with lots of people from here from Gauteng, and we raise money by selling these items that have been donated.
Nice.
Okay, so how can someone reach out in terms of the support if they need support and they can say that Mr. Datlas has been funding this and it's been successful. So how can someone reach out to you or other members that you work with?
Okay. They just have to contact a member of the town committee and send an application. You request an application form, then it will be sent to you. You fill it out and send it back, and then you get an answer.
Oh, okay.
Right now, the town committee is a bit inactive because we're waiting for an AGM to take place where new members will be elected. Until that takes place, there's sort of a funding freeze.
All right.
But don't despair. We're still here. I can't say every request is going to be approved.
Granted, yeah.
And obviously, with any application process, you look at the quality of the application. The first thing that really counts is this a serious group? It's a football team. We know that's a football team.
Yeah.
And if they fill out a form that's quite clear, this is what we need and why we can't do it ourselves. And can you help?
I just want to say to you, the viewers at home, that Mr. Douglas has been an amazing part of the NNT Productions. I mean, this Unplugged podcast, it is exactly we are what we are today. He's been an amazing part of it, and we really do appreciate you, sir. I thought you were going to mention it at some point.
Because he's mentioned a lot of projects.
And he sometimes forgets the other ones. He's like, oh yeah, there's that other one.
You don't want an appearance of conflict of interest. You can't have your donors influencing. You should ask tough questions. Don't be deterred just because I'm helping out here.
Yeah, definitely.
But I also have to say, by the same token, I'm very happy, impressed, and proud of what you are doing with this group with Tefo. You're putting on a very professional show, and you're getting a message out there, and it has a social mission. You're asking serious questions, and you're giving a branded identity to the youth of Matse. Here you've got bright young people who are doing a podcast and asking topical issues that are important and for which there should be answers. And you'll be educating your viewership to maybe learn a bit more about how things work. How did I get here and I'm only in a shack? And understand a bit more the context of how the town works and what will succeed over time.
Mr. Douglas, we really thank you for your time today. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. We know you're a very, very busy man, and you taking your time to go ahead with this interview, it really means a lot to us, and I'm really sure it's going to mean a lot to a lot of people that are going to be watching this podcast, and continue doing the good work. So.
And you, Lawrence.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for the interview. Much appreciated.
Yeah, we
thank
really
you,
appreciate it.
Well, that's a wrap from us, guys, today on the 9720 Unplugged podcast. Of course, with me, Lawrence, and
Spasha.
Of course, man. Do subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe, to like, to drop your comments. I mean, we can really use your recommendations. We can really use your advice, and just engage with us and let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to see in the future, so that we can actually work together, hand in hand.
And don't forget to share, guys.
Don't forget to share. Well, thank you very much. It is a wrap from us and Mr. Douglas.
And don't forget my dog pedal.
I know Tatiana.
He's even sleeping.
Totally chilled.
We've been talking a very long time. He's even sleeping.
She's comfortable in front of the camera.
Well, from us and the NNT crew, it's a wrap from us. We thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.